So my name's Caleb Folan. My background was football. It was what I did from a young age. So I played football my whole life essentially, and that took me on its own journey, which turned out to be a 15-year career in football. I always had a interest and passion for alternative therapies, and I noticed that as I got a bit older. Just being around my parents growing up, who were quite holistic in things they did and how they lived their life. And ultimately that chapter coincided when I was going through my own struggles essentially. There's a period of life when I struggled a lot mentally, and for me it was about seeking therapies that helped me with that. So for me to lean on to a lot of alternative therapies was quite natural for me because I'd seen it growing up. So that's what connected me to therapy, and at the time I was still actively playing football, but it was always in the back of my mind, what's next? And yeah, that led me to starting to study in different ways, different countries. With the football, it was heavily based on the physical performance side. So everything was performance driven, high intensity, exerting a lot of energy physically. So I guess I was always conditioned in a way physically to perform to a certain level. But what I noticed was missing in the world of football and that physical endurance was the energetic approach and more the mental and spiritual approach to the physical. So coming into the therapy, for me, it was trying to merge the two, the physical and the energetic within us essentially, which ultimately is what a holistic approach is. It's just tying in everything around individual. So the physical element helped a lot. Experiencing a lot of injuries as well. It kind of helped me familiarise with the anatomy and things I've been through and the rehabilitation it's taken to get back to fitness as well. I think a lot of that experience has helped me kind of structure different approaches. It all came to a head when I moved across Southeast Asia. So I spent 3-4 years on and off across Southeast Asia, from Malaysia to Burma, Thailand, Vietnam, Brunei. So a lot of those regions I was around a lot of therapists, people, therapy, culture, a different mindset, different energetic approaches to things as well. So that resonated heavily and probably tuned me in different ways, set me on my path in therapy as well. So my treatments are quite simple but quite diverse at the same time. So they range from sport, therapy-based treatments to deep tissue, a lot of reiki work, acupuncture, reflexology. So they all sound quite different, but actually they all kind of merge into each other. So a lot of my treatments, the way I approach treatments are just to base them quite individually. A lot of my treatments are quite bespoke for each person. But the benefits, I always lead with Reiki and the energy side for all my work. I think anything I do is a foundation of energy to it. Because I think if we're connecting and channeling energy that way, you feel a deeper level of connection to the treatment and to the person as well. So every approach is with an energetic approach. But the deeper tissue as well is, a lot of people have a perception of what a deep tissue should be and what it is. And really, it's what it needs to be for the person. So sometimes there's no set way of how a deep tissue should be, or can be. I think it just depends on the individual itself. So if we go in a deeper approach, it only needs to be as deep as it needs to be for you and for that part of the body. We could overwork an area where we may not be getting the benefits that we need. We over-traumatizing a certain part of the body, then it might have the opposing effects as well. With deep tissue, I think it's just an understanding for what the part of the body needs and what kind of pressure that area needs as well. And just being quite technically specific and accurate with those parts of the body as well. Deep tissue is interesting to me because it sounds so simple, which it actually really is. But some people, I think, overthink what it should be as opposed to what it needs to be as well. It's funny as well because some people, when I come to greet them, they're like, okay, I don't want it that deep. I'm thinking, I don't know how deep I'm gonna. So they're already in the head. So that shows me that they're not quite sure in terms of how deep they want it. They just perceive it to be a certain way, if that makes sense. First and foremost, I think it's just a conversation with the person in that moment in time, because we all feel differently throughout a single day. Come the time when the treatment schedule myself, I think the most important thing is just having a conversation with the person and just trying to understand how they're feeling in that moment in time. And obviously their pattern and schedule is important, just to kind of gauge on what I feel could be helpful for that person. But I guess there's no set answer in terms of what that is, as everyone probably resonates with something different. So I think ultimately it's about just connecting with the person in that moment, in that time that you have, and trying to see and feel what could be beneficial for that individual moving forward as well. So it's hard to pinpoint a correct answer, because a correct answer for someone may be different to someone else. So some people hold in different ways in different parts of the body. So a focus to relieve a certain energetic feeling or physical means it may be a different approach. Everything is so individual. I'm really finding that the more I work in therapy and work with people, everything's individual, because we're all different, you know. Beyond the physical massage work and the energetic work of reiki, practice a lot of acupuncture, reflexology. So there's more specific treatments where we're pinpointing energy channels in the body, and we're triggering, activating and connecting those lines and draw out different energetic responses as well as physical responses too. So incorporating acupuncture may be necessary or beneficial in my mind to a certain injury, or to evoke a certain feeling. So it's good just to be able to lean on different approaches, whether it's acupuncture or reflexology, just to help aid in ultimately what the person's feeling in that moment, you know. So I may see someone who's not quite sure really what treatment they feel is beneficial for them in this moment. Just by engaging and speaking about how the person's feeling, day-to-day is like, it may be a case of actually some reflexology may be beneficial for this or for you in that, or maybe some acupuncture. So just having those tools to reach to can really help me structure a bespoke treatment for someone. Essentially what reflexology is we're not here as doctors, we're not here to essentially diagnose or to give those types of responses in that way. As a reflexologist, we're working with the person, so we're working with the body, so we're here to invoke collectively. But essentially what reflexology is, it's more a zonal approach. So we're pinpointing different zones in the feet, also in the hands and in the ears too. There are different areas that can evoke the same elements, but we're actually triggering different zones in the foot which correlate to different parts of the body. So if you imagine your body and you've got lines going all down the body, so we can channel a line from a certain part of the foot which may come all the way up the body, and within that pathway we can kind of pick up what elements are around that grid. Effectively we're working alongside the central nervous system too. So by triggering some of these areas, it helps evoke a more relaxing state as well. That's why with reflex, it's as much as we're triggering, and some of those areas can feel quite heightened and intense, I think once we can surrender to some of those triggers, we can find a deeper sense of relaxation as well. Once we can kind of breathe through it, we can find a really deeper relaxation. A lot of people that receive reflexology, in my experience, often opt for that ahead of any other therapies too, because they feel like it's awakening them in different ways. It's quite a powerful treatment actually, reflexology. Really, it's quite fascinating and powerful treatment at the same time. And there are a few deeper elements in terms of the central nervous system and the relationship between those elements that evoke a certain feeling as well. So there's a little bit of a layer of information that I'm missing there as well, which probably helps bring it all together as well. Essentially, we're working zonal. It's the zonals that resonate with different parts of the body. That's the fascinating thing for me. That's one thing that I always was fascinated with reflexology, is how we can activate and trigger, and we can affect different areas of the body those ways as well. In a sense, we're working with meridian chains, which are energy landlines in the body. And when activated, we can trigger a specific energetic response to that part of the body. In general, what I've noticed is just what it brings is a diverse range of peoples to the space that we work in. So I think the foundation of diversity for me is beautiful. And, that comes with a big membership ad. So I think we have over 300 members here. So with that, you get to know people, and you get to also treat people and be on the journey with people. So that's going back to the fundamentals of therapy. I used to work with a lot of people consistently. So you get to be on a journey with the person, kind of know where we're at. So it's always a goal of trying to improve and get someone to here from here. So I think the familiarity with the people on a regular basis is beautiful here too. Definitely for wellness, I think the facility is incredible. I like to try and, if I see someone who stays for a week, I would usually schedule in a few sessions with that person, again, depending on what the person may need. Because sometimes the recovery is just as important as really triggering certain parts of the body. So if we've done quite an intense session one day, we may not need to do that again for that period of the week. And sometimes I need a bit longer with the person. So with a week, I get to work with the same person several times and just spend a bit more time in different parts of the body as well. So yeah, I see a lot of people on week journeys consecutively. And yeah, we try and implement lifestyle pathways and things that they can implement on their travels. And yeah, we reconnect quite a lot. So the cycle goes around, so I see a lot of people consistently. So people have gone for periods of time, come back. I'm now familiar with the names that I see in my column. So it's becoming a lot more rhythmic that way. And yeah, I've had a lot of feedback where people have implemented certain advice I've given. And it's cool just to see people in a better place, whether if it's just a little bit or a big bit. That makes me happy, to be fair. That's what we do it for. For me, ultimately it's about helping people in whatever little way I may be able to help someone. That to me is what I'm doing it for, Even if it's just a little something, that little something is more than what it may have been before. So even just to change someone's mindset as well, slightly, or make them think outside of the normality to them is beautiful too. So opening up people in different ways. Yeah, that's very rewarding. That's the beauty of doing this for sure. And working with people, and they're very connected to the process too. They want to be on a journey, they want to improve in something, they want the knowledge, they want advice, they want help essentially. And they're willing to implement what they need to do in order to be better. And I think that's key as well, because a lot of things are collective. I can do what I can do for you, but we also have to be able to, or be willing to do what we can do for ourselves as well. Everything's collective, isn't it? Everything's collective. We're all helping each other in different ways. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the balance, again, comes from how an individual may be feeling in that moment. Sometimes some people are not so aware of what they may need, and what I'm finding is I have a lot of people come to me for me to kind of evoke that within them, or offer my advice on what I feel may be beneficial for them. So sometimes trying to balance the two is, really just depends on the individual, and sometimes that balance could be more energetic or more physical in that approach as well. But again, with every approach in my therapy stems from an energetic foundation anyway. So the energy is always at the core of my approach of everything. With injuries, because my careers taught me a lot about that, just being injured myself and having to go on these journeys of recovery, I've become very familiar with that process and what it's like. The thing is with being injured is that the way it impacts us mentally. So sometimes the approach with injury may be to evoke that mental stimulation. So sometimes the holistic approach, whether it's with acupuncture or energy work, can affect us mentally more than the physical. And if we're better mentally, we can then help ourselves physically as well. So sometimes the physical approach turns out to be more the mental approach for people as well. Working with people with disabilities or injuries that prevent them, restrict them in different ways. It's just about being patient, I think, being patient and understanding with the person and what they're going through, and yeah, just adapting and adjusting to whatever situation presents itself, really. You know, I've had people with disabilities, and you know what I found is really helpful is just your patience. Honestly, like working with people that, because to them it's like, oh, they're panicking because they feel like they're inconvenienced in different ways. So I think just being, we're here for you, let's just take your time, I think having that understanding of what someone's going through and that empathy for the situation and just being patient with the situation with the person, I've noticed goes a long way. I've had a lot of feedback from people, with those going through different things, and they've often been very thankful for the patience and understanding. I think it's so, I've learned that from going through working with people like that. That's just naturally been what I feel like I need to be for this person. I can't treat it like I have to treat them for them and for the situation we're in. So just being that way I think is key for anyone going through different struggles in different ways. The beauty of the maintenance of things is, again, very individual. And I often say to people, if you're not used to receiving yourself, then let's just look at a monthly window. Let's look at something doable for you. That may be a 2-month window. But let's see what works for you and try and implement something consistently in those timeframes. To get the ultimate benefits, it's about the implementing and the consistency, like I spoke to you about. It's just about the doing and the doing, because it's sometimes hard to just one session just to make everything fine. It's just unrealistic, But I think by showing someone what's possible within that time and then implementing that on a more regular basis, that's when the benefits are really going to come to the forefront. So I think it's trying to implement structures that work for people and their lifestyles, because everyone's lifestyle is very different. But when people have certain windows of opportunity and time, it's just about just implementing for yourself. But that comes from you as well. You have to be willing to do the work as well yourself to get the benefits. I can offer the pathway and the blueprint, but it's just about trying to step into that ourselves as well. From a young kid, I've always wanted to move around, and I've never known why. So I've always had a sense of I wanted to travel, I wanted to experience cultures and different parts of the world. And as I got a bit older, that only became stronger. But what I learned was, obviously I was adopted as a baby. And my biological mum, she was a Maasai warrior, so quite nomadic and moved around a lot. And my mum that adopted me, she had a native, indigenous American tribal background. So I had something within me that was making me want to move around. I was always wanting to experience something new. So travel was something that was inevitable for myself. And the first stop was America, and then it was across the other side of the world, Southeast Asia, and that's when something resonated. And I think it was more the cultural element, something about the spirit there was able to unlock a lot of things within myself without me even realizing that's what that place would do for me. So it wasn't until I was there, it let me know how I felt. So by being in these environments, it was unlocking things within myself, which was then allowing me to expand on who I was and tap into things that was resonating with me as well. So I think just being in amongst the environment, across Southeast Asia specifically, it opened up things within me instantly. And I think maybe it was more the environment as opposed to more the Western world. Maybe it was the environment that invoked that. I definitely felt a lot more spiritually attuned to be in some of these regions. And I think maybe that was what I was always seeking. I think I was always seeking that spiritual enlightenment, and I didn't know how I was going to get that because I wasn't getting that from my own environments. So I think I was always seeking that, and I found that over there, or that triggered that over there for me being there, And then obviously being across Southeast Asia and having those feelings of exploring more of spirituality that way. I feel like in those cultures across Southeast, it's normality. It's, there's therapy everywhere. On the street, there's people doing reflexology. Do you know what I mean? It's almost just lifestyle in some of these regions, And it's not always about, okay, so someone's doing reflexology on the street. It might not be incredible reflexology, but it's the mindset, isn't it? It's that someone's feels like this going to help you in your day. It's just having that there, that it's the intention of, come here, let me help, where do you see that? Over here? Don't. Over there, it's like, it's normality. It's like people sat in the streets having reflect, it's like, wow, this is crazy. That's so mad. And I think that translates into their culture and environment, from environment into culture. So then when you start seeking specific therapies in certain areas and very connected approaches from therapists, maybe, or people who really practice certain therapies, it feels a lot more authentic, and I think that there's a lot more connection to the practice because it's just embedded in the culture. And that resonates heavily for me. When someone's really attuned to the practice or the doing, I feel that. You've got to feel connected to what you do, because that's the only thing that's going to resonate, is ultimately your connection to the craft. It's just that authenticity and that spiritual connect to the practices in those regions that I noticed. And I think even just being around that, it just makes you want to learn more or understand more. And that's not the learn more and understanding of that, maybe that's just learning more about yourself and understanding of yourself. Something about that is invoking things within myself. Well, that's what we should all be seeking in different ways. But yeah, Southeast Asia gave me that. That triggered everything for me, being over there. And I think because I was able to live there for long periods of time rather than just being there, and I was spending a lot of time in these places. So it just becomes a part of it. And then you hope to carry that wherever you go. That's the goal, isn't it? Carry these things that resonate with you, things that you connect with, just to hold on to, and then project those with intention on other people.